right? Joe Rogan, who has consistently amplified conspiracy theories to his massive audience, now says anyone who questions President Trump's assassination attempt is out of their mind. Trump-aligned Fox News host Mark Levin calling out podcasters who profit by being crazier than their competitors. Ben Shapiro calling out Candace Owens, calling her a conspiratorial, even evil person, despite playing a major role in elevating her profile in the first place. What is going on with MAGA? Have they officially lost the plot? Are they refusing to accept responsibility for what they have created? Joining us, senior writer at The Dispatch and MS Now contributor David Drucker, senior data editor and columnist at CT Insider Phil Bump, and senior reporter at The Bulwark Will Sommer. I mean, Will, this is your space, your swamp, if you will. Why are they surprised that people start to run away with thoughts and conspiracies and extreme ideas when they themselves seed these things in the first place?
You know, it's a great question. I mean, as you pointed out, a lot of these people who are now complaining that the right has gotten too crazy, that these podcasters, these conspiracy theorists are running amok, helped create this situation in the first place. I mean, Ben Shapiro had Candace Owens in his outlet, helped give her a bigger platform, for example. And now Ben Shapiro's getting up at Turning Point USA and saying, you know, what is happening? Why are Tucker Carlson, why are Candace Owens causing all these problems in the Republican Party and pushing us further to the fringe? I think the reality is, right-wing media really has no way of stopping a drift further right and into crazier areas, because there's just this energy where the audience always wants more and more, frankly, conspiracy theories and sort of a lack of reality. And people like Ben Shapiro, more moderate elements, haven't really figured out how to handle that.
David, the writer of this Vox piece that we modeled this off of describes these MAGA figures as hot dog men. It's a reference to the Tim Robinson sketch where a hot dog shaped car crashes into a storefront and a guy in a hot dog suit says, "We're all trying to find the guy who did this." I mean, it does seem, and Donald Trump has even had an experience with this where the Epstein files got out of his control. When you start tearing down the establishment, the guardrails, the voices of reason, any authority, you tell people that any of their wildest ideas are possibly true. You tell them that it's okay to believe that everything is a grand conspiracy or everyone is trying to hide something for you for their own, evil or selfish purposes.
Yeah, I guess people are running into a lot of face-eating leopards these days. And I think, Katie, some of this has to do with the fact that the media environment has fragmented, right? And so forget, gatekeepers on the conservative right for a minute or the liberal left. If you don't want to listen to the gatekeepers, even if they're there trying to bar access, you go set up a Substack or a podcast, a video podcast, and boom, you're in business. And if there's an audience, it's very easy to find them because of social media platforms. But I think, to the subject at hand here, I think part of this has to do with the fact that so much of our politics is shirts and skins. And so for a lot of conservative Republicans or people that care about conservative ideas, I think there was this feeling that it was okay to let some of this stuff proliferate as long as it was directed toward the left, as long as it was directed, if you will, in the right direction, away from us and toward the quote unquote enemy. And so much of politics these days is you're evil, we're good. And it's not really a discussion of ideas. It's a culture clash. And of course, what they're finding, what everybody always finds out is you cannot cultivate these sorts of political opportunists or extremists and expect them not to turn on you eventually. Some of this, I will say, has to do with the fact that President Trump has sort of knitted together such an unwieldy, diverse coalition of people who have been attracted to him for all sorts of different and really often conflicting reasons. And whenever he makes a particular choice that conflicts with one part of his coalition and excites the other, or vice versa, you see a lot of these intramural clashes. And I think we're going to only see more of them in the next couple of years.
Well, yeah, Donald Trump, as you will point out, David, has been the unifying presence for a lot of these disparate beliefs and ideas. So you can have a lot of different people who believe a lot of different things, conspiracies and the like. Donald Trump was still somebody that they could, by and large, all get behind. When Donald Trump leaves the movement or when he's no longer in office, what happens to MAGA? Does it just form into a number of different parties? Ideologically, what are we in for?
Well, I don't think we know yet, but here's what I do think we know, or what I'm willing to predict. You know, President Trump is one of those unique, very troubling for many people, obviously, but unique political figures who, as I like to say when it comes to Republican politics, is just normie enough for your normal-minded Reagan-era Republican, and just populist or out there enough for the kind of voter who thinks the whole system is rigged and only shows up to vote about once every 25 years or so when they've found a political outsider that they think is going to break the system. He attracts both kinds, and they all think that he is either with them or with them enough, or he offers them some policy menu that is just good enough, if not more than good enough. I don't see another Republican on the horizon that can do that. And that's why I think, you know, even if Republicans unite behind J.D. Vance, the vice president, in 2028, what's ahead for the Republican Party is a lot of internal debate and a really topsy-turvy ride for the current coalition that is going to end up looking a lot different, if not in 28, than by the time we get to 2032.
Phil, you're so steeped in the numbers of who believes what nowadays. I wonder, without Donald Trump in the mix, do we revert back to something more akin to normal? I mean, I know David was mentioning the stratified, the diversified media landscape. Everybody can go to their own silo to hear what they want to hear. But without Donald Trump amplifying it and leading the charge on the teardown of authority or gatekeepers, do people find their way back to sanity?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think that all of the evidence suggests not. I do think that there's an important through line that we've sort of touched on here that's worth pulling out. There was a gatekeeper for a long time. There was a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper was Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the gatekeeper of what was okay and what wasn't okay in right-wing rhetoric, and he was able to police that. One of the reasons we're having this conversation now is because everyone knows Donald Trump is going away. And the question really isn't what happens politically. It's not who wins the 2028 nomination. It's what happens to all the power, what happens to all of the attention in the right-wing economy that exists, in which Donald Trump has had this grasp on. And one of the reasons we're seeing all these people go sideways is because people recognize now is the time that they can start pulling that apart. They can start getting a piece of that power. And I think that's the more interesting contest here, which Will has written about very well for a long time. I do think I wrote a column today that looked at the core belief system of Trump supporters and really the extent to which they never really saw him as a political actor, but as a change agent, to the point that we just heard there. And the question is, who is going to be able to step up, if anyone, to consolidate that change agent argument, the person who's going to shake the system? And I don't think it's going to be one person. I don't think we're going to go back to normal. I do think we're going to see a fragmentation because there doesn't exist that Trump to unite it all.
What about the Democrats? Are they vulnerable to this, Will?
That's a great question. I mean, I do think there seems to be this appetite among Democratic voters for a shakeup, you know, and I think that that could potentially lead for more conspiratorial, you know, media that I think is often based on, you know, attacking the Democratic Party. I think we've already seen a lot of that in, you know, criticism of the party and things like over Gaza, among other things. But, you know, I do think that this kind of like crazed, just totally bizarre Charlie Kirk assassination theory level stuff put out by people like Candace Owens, at that level, you really just don't have anything like that in the Democratic Party as far as I can see.